I suppose he's about to become an embarrassment. No, not necessarily me. I mean, I can embarrass myself every day with some of these selections that we're giving out, but what we hope to provide you with some kind of a line on winners. But in this case, we're talking about losers. This is in reference to what was an atrocity of a performance by the U.S. men's national soccer team. Now, we will be hosting, along with Mexico and Canada, our North American border countries, although I guess there is some movement afoot there to maybe make them all part of the United States or separate and distance ourselves altogether. But that's a political story. This is a sports story. And it amazes me. And this goes back a long time with me because I have never been a fan and advocate of soccer. Don't, I mean, we played the sport as kids, it was punishment. You would have a gym teacher would say, "Hey, listen, if somebody doesn't rat out the guy who graffitied the bathroom, we're going to play soccer and no basketball, no baseball, no football until we find out who the culprit was." So that was my viewpoint. I viewed soccer literally as punishment. And right now, if you're a fan of American soccer, which leads to another concept that I find incredible, and that is that after all this time of paying attention to soccer and trying to make it a sport that Americans would embrace, little kids are playing it instead of playing Little League Baseball and Pop Warner football. How it is that we still are god awful at this game, as evidenced by the American team's 4-0 loss, where they did not. The goal is the size of the fucking Grand Canyon, and there was not one shot on goal. They could have literally put the goaltender for Switzerland in an armchair, and he would have been just as impactful in the game as he was in shutting out the United States team. But it's not a good omen. I remember many years ago, I was working as a waiter at a country club. I had to pick up a job for a week in the summertime just to make some money and get through until school started again. And I was working at the Seawain Country Club in Hewlett Harbor, Long Island. And I believe the man's name was Sam Lefrak. He owned this I don't know, do you want to call it a tenement type of setup? It was called Lefrak City, giant apartment complex, and had huge real estate holdings all over the place. And I'm serving this guy lobster bisque or whatever, and he says to me, "Hey, so what are you going to do with yourself? What are you studying in school?" I said, "I want to be a sportscaster." He goes, "Well, I'm going to give you one piece of advice: learn soccer." Now, this had to be like circa 1973. So when you really look back at that, well, we've been awful at this game for 50 something years as a country. It's incredible. Now, here's a guy that if he played soccer, he no doubt would be the second coming of Pele and Messi all rolled into one, where we bring in Scotty M to the program. I don't know, Scott, do you get involved with your team in betting soccer? It seems to be a very popular wagering sport. Obviously, I remember being in Vegas when the World Cup was taking place, the last edition of the World Cup. And early in the morning, the sports book is packed and it erupts as somebody scores a goal. And I'm thinking, what are these guys doing? I mean, that would be the only way to make it interesting is to bet on it. But what's your feeling about this? And how is it possible that the United States of America, with all these great athletes that we have here, could not be able to get to the point where we can at least score a fucking goal against Switzerland? What do you think, my friend? How,
I think they need to send Brad Marchand over there, and they'll probably
yeah,
get some goals. What do you think? The way he's going for the Panthers. But to answer your question, you know, a lot of guys love soccer. I never got into it in all my years, to be honest with you. And I'm doing this since the late '80s. I don't think I've ever once in my whole entire career sold the soccer pick to any client. So I don't get into it. A lot of guys love it. There's a lot of they feel a lot of value in the game. To me, it's really, I mean, World Cup, I get it. It takes it to a whole different level and makes it more exciting. But for me to get involved with soccer, there's just too many elements with soccer. I just don't know well enough. So I'd rather stick to the things that I know a lot better, which is obviously the four major sports with the hockey, the basketball, baseball, and those sports are really the key for me on my success. But very, very popular. A lot of guys love to bet soccer. You got the Premier Leagues, you got all these different leagues around I guess around the world, you could call it, at least in Europe. And a lot of guys love betting on soccer, no doubt about it.
I think if I was going to bet the sport, I would bet against Tijuana in every game in whatever league they happen to be in, because
All right.
every time I see the crawl on ESPN, they put up soccer scores. Tijuana is always taking one on the chin. So I don't know if the players are exhausting too much energy selling leather jackets, or telling people that it's showtime at some strip club there in Tijuana, the main drag. But they seem to be rather pathetic as a soccer entity, anyway. Which
I'm curious, Defo, what got you on the topic of soccer? Somebody got you all jacked up on it?
No, it's funny. I've seen guys. They'll show how everybody shows you their phone now, and they got all the bets on their app, and you're
Right.
thinking this is worse than having some guys shovel losing racing tickets in your face and saying, "Oh, I can't believe I left out the three." But I do remember a guy coming up to me at a racetrack, and he shows me his thing, and he says, "If this game ends in a draw, I complete like a 20 component parlay of all draws." So I would be tempted always to play the draw in soccer. That would be my one bet.
Yeah, the only thing I don't like about soccer, if you have to bet like an exact thing, like if they're going to win in regulation, if
Yeah,
it goes extra or overtime, you don't win the bet, even though if your team wins. So there's variables to soccer. You kind of got to know the ins and outs of it, different type of wagering, things like that. Obviously, the games are not high scoring. Most of them they're very low scoring games.
yeah.
So there's a lot of different ways of playing soccer than you would, the other sports out there. So that's probably another reason why it's kept me kind of out of the ring of throwing my hat in it to start trying to figure out at this stage of my career. Like I said, a lot of guys that I do speak to, they do sell soccer picks.
That's crazy. Yeah. And look, there must be a ton of action on this stuff.
And
But, for my money, I mean, it appears to me to be a game that was invented by a mutant society that had no arms. Because otherwise, why wouldn't you just pick up the damn ball and throw it? And then, as I said, the goal is the size, the length of the equator. And you had a U.S. team against Switzerland that couldn't get a single shot on goal in the entire game. Who the hell is going to waste their time watching something like that? And yet, most popular sport in the world. So go figure. All right, hockey would be probably fourth at one time in terms of the major sports, and yet we have a situation here in our hometown of South Florida where the Florida Panthers now up 2-1 on the Edmonton Oilers after two. I mean, just airtight games there that both went to overtime, one double OT. The Panthers explode. I'm assuming you were probably at that game, Scotty M. Were you taking advantage of your season tickets for that one?
I was there. Yep, I was there, and I saw the Panthers do exactly what I expected them. They turned it up. They took it to a different level. They played the style of hockey the Panthers were playing. The way I expected them to play. I felt that game was going to be a turnaround game, especially after that long game in Edmonton that Brad Marchand got that goal to in double overtime to bring it back home. They had the extra day off. Yeah, it was just a big spark for them. I felt they're the stronger of these two teams. I think they made Edmonton look ridiculous the other night. They just outclassed them from start to finish. I mean, they just put on a display that I figured the reason why I thought the Panthers would, win this series was exactly the way they played that game number three. And I expect the same intensity levels in game four. I got to be honest with you. I wouldn't be shocked if they go up 3-1. Go back to Edmonton, maybe lose again. Who knows? Or win it there, or come back home and win it by the sixth game. But I don't see any stopping of the Florida Panthers. They're just too solid. They got too many weapons on too many lines, from Bennett, to Barkov, Verhage. I mean, I could go on and on. You got veterans like Ekblad. You got Reinhardt. You just got so many good players. Lindell, this kid Seth Jones now that they brought into the mix. That everyone's contributing. And, Connor McDavid, let's face it, he's the greatest hockey player in the world. Okay. But one guy is not going to beat four lines that are solid. And at the end of the day, you got a weapon with Bob, who's an experienced goalie that knows what to do in key moments. I think he's a lot better in the key moments than Skinner. Obviously, for Edmonton, he showed what he was all about the other night. He looked frazzled in that in the pipes the other night against the Panthers, and the Panthers just put on an all out attack. I don't see Edmonton having that. I mean, they looked good in the first game. Edmonton did they kind of turned it around and did what the Panthers normally do to the Panthers in Game 1, and it worked out when they came back from 3-1 down to win that game. But since then, Panthers kind of dominating since the second half of Game 2 and totally dominated Game 3. So I expect the same type of thing, Defo. I think Panthers win again at home. Going to be tough out for Edmonton. They'll be down 3-1. I don't know if they can pull this one off and come back and force a Game 7 if they're down 3-1.
Looks like they're getting outclassed, as you said. I mean, just too many Panther players of quality to be offset by McDavid and Draisaitl, and both McDavid and Draisaitl had their point streak snapped. I think
Yeah.
McDavid had 7 straight games with a point, and Draisaitl had 8. Barkov, who has not necessarily been a big factor in the scoring column,
Good too. Good
goals
too.
for assists, but yeah, he's really shut down
Yeah.
McDavid, and did the same thing in the series last year. So looks good. I mean, if you were betting the series right now, what would be your recommendation? Panthers, do you see them running it out the door? And
Yeah.
at 5, I would imagine you can make some money if you went ahead with that prop.
I loved them at the beginning. I told you before it started at a plus 110 underdog. I mean, now I wouldn't touch it. It's almost 3-1 favorites.
Yeah.
The series at this point in time, obviously. But at the beginning, I told you I thought the Panthers was the right side of this series. I felt they were going to win the cup and get their quest for the second one. I picked them before the playoffs even started to get to the Stanley Cup with the shot to win it, obviously. So I feel like they're the team to beat. They're the team of destiny. This is their third straight year going to the Stanley Cup Finals. They lost in their first year. They came back and won in their second year, and I felt they were the dominating team. That with the experience and all these great trades they made and these players, how they work together. You could see it in the way they play. They're into it. They work as a unit. They don't have one or two guys. They've got about 7, 8, 9 guys on different lines that can play well together. So big advantage, and you got a great goaltender, like I said, with Bob and Nets. I mean, it just makes it a tough out for anyone that's playing the Panthers this time of the year, anyways.
All right, let's take a look at baskets. That resumes tonight. Indiana with the big surprise, the big comeback in game number 1. Game number 2 was more of the same, except without the comeback. So they ended up losing by the margin they were trailing by throughout most of the ball game. Any shot now? Indiana has the home wood tonight, and last I checked, this was yesterday, that they were getting 5.5 points, which I thought was kind of a generous offer for a team that's in a dead heat, and has shown that they're capable of rising to the occasion, especially at home. So, what do you make of the game tonight?
Well, I made it exactly the way I thought it would be. I thought the first game would be a lot closer. I actually think I said it on here last week I thought the Pacers could stay in that first game with a shot to win it. I didn't think they would win it actually outright, but I thought they had a shot to stay in it and keep the game close. They crawled, they scratched and clawed all the way through it and got the job done to actually steal it. I thought the second game I laid off that game altogether because I figured it could be a big bounce back. Just OKC has been so consistent all year. You don't expect them to drop 2 games in a row on their home court. It hasn't happened in quite some time, and I didn't think it would happen against the Pacers. But like you said, now it gets interesting because now they're on the road. They're jacking the lineup, obviously, because of that last game. If the game was close in the last game, I don't think 5.5 would be the number tonight. I think it would have been 3 or 3.5. So you might get a little value with the Pacers just because they didn't show up as well in game 2. Halliburton was awful in game 2. And as he goes, it seems like they go, the whole unit around them go. So, he didn't put up many shots. He just didn't seem like he had that energy level like he did in the first game and the games against the Knicks. So I think he'll have the energy level tonight. It'll rally the team around them. I think 5.5 is a lot of points to give a team like this that's been, consistent as well as anybody. Like I said, over the last 3 months, put them on their home court now with a series tied 1-1. They have the confidence they could beat this team. So I like the points in this game. I'd buy this line up to 7. It's 5.5, like you said. I'd lay the extra 1.5. Buy this line up to 7. I feel very comfortable in this spot that this game will be a closer game. I don't know if the Pacers will beat OKC, but I think when it comes down to it, it's going to be similar like OKC, Minnesota. A couple of those games were real close on the road. I think this one's going to be the same type of game where it'll be a close game. And I think, I don't care at this point who's going to win and not win the game. But I like the dog in it plus the 7. I think they stay in it tonight.
And I've been looking at some trends in baseball. I would imagine you could have made quite a bit of money if you could have spotted this. Dodgers in their last 32 games are 16 and 16. I'm assuming, Scotty M, that they were overwhelming favorites in most of those games.
Yes,
So if you had just bet against them in the last 30 plus games, 32 games,
you're making money.
I'm thinking you're grinding out a pretty good profit. And then just when the Philadelphia Phillies looked like they're about to take over the National League East, they had overtaken the Mets and were in first place. They go into the throes of a woeful slump. Now 2-8 in their last 10.
Doing
Uh,
your homework. I like that.
what's that?
You're doing your homework. I like that.
Well, I mean, I'm looking at the standings because I think baseball is a little bit different in terms of how you approach it. I mean, you can go night to night, and obviously, if you're giving out picks, that's somewhat of what you're doing. But I think if you stay with certain things over the long haul, and it's only in spurts, you can't necessarily follow this all season. But if you can jump on the timing at the right moment, and then go ahead and keep punching until you feel like maybe that number is up. You can really make a score.
I love it. You just hit the nail right on the head. That's exactly what I do, Defo. I look for certain teams elevating, certain teams flat, going not elevating. I look to see the matchups. I look at the numbers. I look at everything around it, and that's exactly the way my thinking is when it comes to baseball. And I'm jumping on certain teams at certain times. I stay off them for a bit. I see how they correct. How they start looking down the road. Then I may jump back into a perfect situation. Is that Phillies Cubs series? Last night, my big play was the Cubs in that matchup. I didn't, Philly won the night before. I thought they were lucky to win that one against the Cubs in extra innings. But I look for certain teams like that. Like you said, they're 2-8 in their last 10 games. They have not been playing well. They're finding ways to lose games. They've not been scoring a lot of runs on some of these games. And the Cubs have been a very consistent team. They throw a good product out there. So these are the things I look for: the numbers on games, the matchups, how these teams are playing. If they're on a downswing, I'm not chasing after them. Forget that. So don't chase teams, guys. Let me explain something to you. I'm doing this a long ass time. You don't chase losing teams to try to, they're going to come there. All of a sudden, they're going to get good again. That's not the case. Just because they won one game after losing 2 out of 10 doesn't mean they're good again. Because the next game, Philadelphia, perfect example, they won that one game, come right back last night and dropped against the better product with the Cubs. That's what I look for. Teams like the Dodgers, I try to avoid them in certain situations. They're not playing extremely well. Their numbers, you just mentioned, they're 16, I think, in their last 32, but they're 17 on the road as well. So they're not playing well on the road. They're not playing well overall. They're a 50-50 ball club. So you got to be careful playing teams like that, because you don't see any consistency to jump on them and start putting real money in teams like that. So you want to find more consistent teams that are kind of finding ways not to lose a lot of games in a row, that are playing steady, and look for the value and look who they're playing against, obviously, and see how they're doing and who they match up pitching wise. So there's opportunities to find these type of advantages. That's what I try to do. I try to look for spots, and I jump in and out and follow certain teams that I feel are the more consistent, obviously, than the bad ones.
Anything jump off the page for you tonight in baseball?
Yeah, I mean, I see a couple of games, same type of situations I'm looking at. Another team you can scratch your head with is this Atlanta Braves team. I mean,
Oh my God, yeah.
they're making them favorites. Last night, I couldn't understand why they were favored in that spot against Milwaukee. Just didn't understand why they'd be a favorite. But I like the total on the game between the LA Angels and the Athletics. I think there could be a lot of runs scored in that game. They're currently showing that game at 9.5. I think that game has potential to be a lot of runs scored in it. These pitchers, Sears and Hendricks, are definitely capable of allowing base runners and allowing runs. So I could see that game definitely with the potential of being a high-scoring game. So I'm going to take the over in that. I'm going to ride with the Cubs again today. I think the Cubs got a big shot against Philadelphia. I'm betting against Philly lately, and it's been working out. I had them. I went against them a couple of times against Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh beat them. I had the Cubs last night. I think the Cubs can beat them again today. I think Brown against Luzardo. Luzardo started out a house of fire. Obviously, last couple of starts he's been allowing a lot of runs. So I think the Cubs, the way they're lined up right now, the way they're playing, they got a shot in this game. It's a small number. They got Philly. I thought if Luzardo was anything, it'd be about a buck 35, buck 40. They bring it out 110, 115. I'm looking at the whole matchup. Cubs play well on the road, 21-15, so they win on the road. Philly's inconsistent right now, playing against a team that's been consistent overall road wise and over the last 20 plus games. So I like the Cubs in that spot. That's really what I'm looking at. I like the Cubs plus minus 105, and I like the total to go over in the Athletics LA Angels game.
All right, always doing your research, and you got a good team behind you, Scotty M. How can people take advantage of your selections?
Yeah, we've been red hot. If you guys are following me, our broadcast channel's been winning, and you can join up. All you have to do is go on my Instagram and click on it. You join. It's all free stuff. We put it out each and every day, and our free picks on the videos. Man, we've been on a nice run over the last month. We've hit about 70+% just on free stuff I'm giving away to everybody out there. And all you have to do is go to SM Sports Picks, PICKS. Make sure it's the one with the blue check mark, verified that it's us. And that's it. You can join up the broadcast channel for free, get additional plays, and check out our videos each and every day.
Sounds great, my friend. Hey, great performance as always. Good having you on the show, and best of luck. And I'll look for you in your seats at the Panther game tomorrow night.
We might be seeing each other at the parade before the next episode we do.
That'd be great. All right, Scotty, you have a great day. Thanks so much for joining us here in Bury Your Bookie. Scotty M, ladies and gentlemen, joining us here. Yeah, soccer. I don't get it. I don't know. Probably get a lot of hate mail over that. Sport and people would be critical, saying, "You're talking about hockey like it's so great." What a difference in the pace. There's a lot of back and forth action that doesn't amount to much, but there's so much going on in between, as opposed to some guy having the ball at midfield, and then before he even thinks about making a move, he kicks it back to the goalie, who then punts it back to the same place where the ball was originally. Not exactly the epitome of excitement for me. Anyway, good luck with all your wagers, people. Always a pleasure being with you. We'll catch you tomorrow with Mike Jones and the next edition of Bury Your Bookie.